Hey guys, this is Calistonian. In this video I'm going to talk about mods for Age of Mythology Extended Edition, just basically what they are, how they work, and how you can get them to work if they're not working for you. I do apologize if you had this video link spammed at you. It's probably because you asked a question on Steam that indicated that I guess you needed some of the information presented in this video at a very basic level, just how to use mods. Or if you've never done anything with mods before and you just want to get into the fun, this is a good place to start. So I'm just going to basically go through with you the process of subscribing to a mod, getting it to work in game, and I'll explain as well why certain mods are not compatible with one another, why you can't use some mods at the same time, and why you can use other mods at the same time, which seems to present a lot of confusion for a lot of Steam users, I've noticed. And also issues with DLC compatibility as well as online compatibility, which are also confusing topics. So yeah, let's get started. This is just a picture that I was working on as a preview image. The way that I'm going to break down this video is the first part is just going to be general users, how do you use mods, kind of just a basic how-to describing what's going on. The second part of the video is going to be specifically targeted at scenario designers. So I will put a link to the part that specifically starts talking about scenario design in the description of this video, so you can just skip to that bit if you already kind of know how mods work. Then I'm going to make another video after this that is just kind of a general introduction to how do you make mods, how do you upload them, and how do you update them, and how do you promote them, etc. So, like I said, let's get started. Here we have Steam. We're just going to go down to the workshop. And I'm just going to take some example mods so that we can see. Let's take this one, it's a popular one this week, some textures. Now, let's just look at what this is. First, he has a preview icon image, which is good. It tells me he has 3 images here. These are good quality images. This tells me that the modder, whoever made this, probably knows what they're doing. You can view some of what this mod has to offer here. It looks like it's basically just a retexture. Now, one thing that I'm noticing when I'm looking at these pictures is it looks like the models are all the same, but the textures have been changed. So that gives me an idea of what this mod is actually doing and what its compatibility is going to be. So if we go down, we see this was made by Lightning Storm, who is a well-known modder, a friend of mine. And it's always important that you read the description before you subscribe to a mod. You need to know what the mod is about. Usually the modder will include critical information here, like its compatibility online or its compatibility with other mods. So I'll leave this to you to read for yourself. It looks like this mod was not actually made by Lightning Storm, but was made by another modern Mythos ruler, and has been ported to the Extended Edition, which is not trivial. That is still some good work that Lightning Storm has done here. Some terrain textures, it looks like, or I guess this is Sarah Games mod, and it looks like it's only applying to the vanilla factions. Yeah, so it looks like just a basic texture pack, so we'll go ahead and subscribe to that. And one thing that you have to look out for, this is an example of a good mod that has been put together well, and you know what to expect. And there's obviously the modder knows what they're doing. It's not their first rodeo, so to speak. If we look through more mods, here we have 2. I'll take this one for example. This has no preview icon image, it has no pictures, and it's a no population mod. So this kind of, not to pick on this modder, but you can still kind of tell what it is. A no population mod, if you watch the next video that I'll make on actually designing mods, you will know that no population mods edit the proto 2.5.xml file. And this one specifically is reducing the population to 0, which actually breaks the AI on some units. So this is one that is probably no population mods. I won't really get into that. My opinions on that are pretty strong. They're barely even mods. Basically, you go into Proto 2.5 and change a bunch of numbers from 1 to 0. So this guy probably is not the most experienced modder. If we look here on the most recent tab, which is always good, Here's one that I've already subscribed to. This one is a scenario, it looks like. And it looks really nice. He has a nice preview icon. No description, but I don't think you really... Well, he does have a description here, and it's all that you really need. And it looks like a really cool scenario. I haven't checked it out yet, actually, so I'll have to look at that. And I'm going to take one more mod as an example. This one looks nice. This guy's got a nice preview icon image. Looks like he made this himself, actually. A bunch of really beautiful pictures here. Yeah, very nice. And what is it? It's a scenario, it looks like. It's a SEX file. Nice formatting. Oh, and he's saying it's his first mod for Age of Mythology. That's really surprising, actually. He's done a really good job, this guy. This is really nice. He's got lots of nice formatting in the mod's description, a very descriptive. I will come back and read this, but for now I'm just going to subscribe so that I'm not boring you guys. You can pause it if you would like. He's even got a YouTube video here to promote it. So I'll try not to nest YouTube videos inside of YouTube videos, but this is really nice. This is a great example of what you should be doing to promote your scenarios. So I'll go ahead and take this as well, just to show you that when you do subscribe to scenario files, it's not as simple as just subscribing. For about 50% of users, myself included, you are actually going to have to move the scenario file from your mods folder into your scenario folder, but you can only do that after you restart. Okay, so now I've gotten these two mods that I want to subscribe to. I'm going to go ahead and launch the game, and hopefully it doesn't take forever. I did launch it beforehand. That's another thing to mention, that if you do subscribe, like myself, I have a ton of mods active just because I'm working on them continuously, and that can make the game take a lot longer to launch on the first launch. Subsequent launches are just fast, as you can see, but on the first launch it can take forever, especially if you have a ton of like really high poly HD textures, high poly models with HD textures. It can take an ungodly amount of time, take like 10 plus minutes to launch, and it did that with the disc version as well. So just a warning that you probably don't want to subscribe like to every single pack in my UMC pack, for example. So when you first subscribe to mods, you usually get this message, new mods detected, and it will tell you to restart. And you should restart, because you will not have, after you restart, the files will transfer to your computer. So currently you will not have any files, and the mod will not work if you just continue. And you'll be wondering, why doesn't the mod work? And maybe you'll try unsubscribing, but don't do that. Just restart the game. Okay, and now the first thing that I want to do is go and click on this icon here, which is the mod manager. And I know that I already have, as you can tell by my menu background and everything, I already have a ton of other mods installed. But the great thing is that the mods that you subscribe to will be the highest on your priority. And as you can see, there's just a ton of other mods that I'm working on. But these two are the very highest priority, which is exactly what we want. You want to, basically the way the mod manager works, and every time you change these, if I make this priority down, priority up, I'll have to restart. So if I put this down, I'll have to restart the game. But I don't think that I need to. I think that everything is fine here. For this one, it's just a scenario. I can actually disable this. Epic textures, we'll see. But basically the way that the way that priority works in the mod manager is it's going to take whatever files are higher on priority, and the game is going to use those files. So if you have a file with the same name, like proto 2.5.xml, which controls basically all of the unit data in the game, the mod that has that file at the highest priority will be the one that the game uses. So, for example, if this mod, I don't think that it does, but if this mod had proto 2.5.xml, it would override UMC high priority, which also has proto 2.5.xml. However, if this mod modifies the hoplite texture, which I'm pretty sure it does, then it's not going to be overriding anything. You would still be able to use this mod. If this has no proto file, then the game will use this mod's proto file. But if they both, you get the idea, it's pretty straightforward. If both of them modify the hoplite textures, then the one that's higher priority will win out. So this is the reason why your no population limit mods are not going to work with mods like UMC high priority, because they both use proto 2.5. This is the reason why some texture mods will not work with one another, because they're both changing texture files that have the same names. There are lots of other examples. User interface mods might change the same user interface files, and therefore they will not be compatible. However, they can be you can use them at the same time, but any files that have the same name will not be compatible. This is very straightforward, but it seems to cause a lot of confusion, so I just wanted to spend a minute talking about that. Now, another important thing to keep in mind is that when I have these mods here in my mod manager, listed in the in-game mod manager, when the creator of this mod updates their work by publishing it again without changing the name, which I'll also talk about in the next video, when they update these mods, these will automatically update on my end. I don't even have to restart Steam. So let me say that again, because this is also important, especially if you're actually using the mod as a scenario designer when it gets updated. You want to make sure that you're not doing that, because it will update in real time. It will update just a few minutes after they update the mod. You will actually get the files transferred to your computer. You don't have to restart Steam. We have tested this before, and it seems like you should have to restart Steam, but I don't think that that is the case. And that can be a problem if you're actually working on a scenario that uses somebody's mod. Like if you were working on a scenario that uses UMC high priority, and I update my mod while you're using your scenario, you can talk to my friend PhD Rogers. It can really mess up your game. So you definitely want to make sure, and I will talk about this later on, that when you're a scenario designer, that you do get in contact with the modders. If you're using their mods in your scenario, they're usually happy to help you. And you want to make sure that you're talking to them and letting them know what's going on, and also that they're warning you before they update, because if they're updating while you're in game, it can cause serious problems. So at any rate, we have our two mods here on highest priority, and we can test them out. And let's see here. Yeah, just as I suspected, UMC high priority is still active, so I still have all of my UMC units with the two mods that I subscribe to. And I'm going to go down and check, let's try the Hoplite. I just love using the Hoplite. I think it's such an iconic unit. And by the way, if you're wondering how I'm zooming in and out so far, that would be a startup file, so it's a mod that I'm using. Now, yeah, looks like it seems to be working. Lightning Storm's texture mod is indeed working, so I've got my Age 1 Hoplite textures here. Looks very nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and back out of the game. And the reason that I'm doing that is because if I try to load scenario here, you'll notice on my end that I can't see the scenario that I just subscribed to. It's not in here. I actually have to physically transfer it over. So now that we've restarted the game, if we're using a scenario, if the mod is basically just a scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to go to wherever we have Steam installed, whatever directory we have Steam installed in here. I have it in Documents. You probably have it in Program Files. And we're going to go to Steam Apps, Common, Age of Mythology, and then we're going to go to Mods, and we're going to find that mod. I think it was this one, ECC Empire Crusader, and we're going to take this SCX file. By the way, this guy should have, he should have a folder here called Scenario. And this will only work for 50% of users. It will not work for me, but this is how we should set up his mod, actually. It's good that he has a workshop preview icon and publish info already here. Let's see if he did this. No, he didn't do it in real time. You also need to make sure that you go and take, after you publish your mod on the workshop, and then you write this whole big description out, there will be a button here. I'll show you on one of my mods so that you can see. There's a button here that says Edit Title and Description. You want to take all the text in here and Control-C it, and then put it in your mod's workshop preview, or the publish info rather. Put it right here. And the reason that you want to do this, and then save it, but I'm not going to save over his, but the reason that you want to do that is so that when you update your mod, you don't lose this whole description, right? So I'll talk about that in the next video as well. At any rate, I'm going to take this scenario file from his mod, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to put it in my scenario folder. Just Control-C, Control-V. And actually what I like to do is put it here, ECC sends or something. And what I have done actually is I've separated some of my favorite scenario designers. They all have their own folders within my scenario folder. But I'm just going to put this here. And now if I relaunch the game, I should be able to access that scenario. And here it is. Now, another thing you can do, I'm not sure that it works. I always play scenarios this way by test playing, and I'm not sure that this will work, but another thing you can do is if you just put the scenario in your root scenarios folder instead of in a subfolder, you can just use load scenario from the main menu, and you can play the scenario that way. But I always play scenarios just by test playing, because I like being able to see how the designer made his scenario, what triggers he used, and what the scenario looks like in the editor. I always think that's half the fun for me as a modder. I don't want to see too much though, because it'll give it away, but we can just go scenario and playtest. I'm not actually going to playtest the scenario right now, because this video is not just a showcase for this guy's scenario, although it does look pretty good. It's For a first scenario, this does look pretty damn good. But at any rate, where were we? Yeah. So now you have an idea of how to use scenarios and how to use mods. I'm just going to go back to the main menu and recapitulate how to use the mod manager. We've basically covered everything at this point. We've talked about what makes different mods compatible with one another, what makes different mods compatible online. This takes a bit of intuition. Just like knowing which mods are compatible with one another, it takes a little bit of intuition, a little bit of experience using mods to know what type of files the mods are editing. And that's why I went through on the workshop and was talking about, well, this mod probably changes these files. So the reason that that's important is not only for mods with the, obviously files with the same name overwrite each other, but also you have to remember that textures, user interface, scenario files, and random map files, those are all online compatible. Those will work online. So you can have those mods active here, and then you can go to online play, and it will not give you a message. But here, since I have a bunch of mods that are outside of that, so like your data mods, like proto, like infinite population mods, your mods that have models in them, your mods that have anim files in them, your mods that have startup files in them, all of those will not be online compatible. Those will all give you this message that you're about to see. If I try to join a random game, it will actually list all of my local mods here. It'll list the mods that the host has that are incompatible, and it will list the mods that I have that are incompatible. And as you can see, it's a pretty ridiculous list. Basically what I would do to play online is just disable everything. But you don't have to disable everything. If you have textures, user interface, scenarios, or random map files, as well as a couple other mod files that I can't think of off the top of my head, those will still be online compatible, and you will not get this message. So you'll actually see that those two mods that I subscribed to at the top of my mod manager, these two new ones that we just subscribed to, those weren't on that list because these two are both online compatible mods. The texture mod is just textures. Actually, it does look like it has some models. So I was incorrect. It does have some models, and it probably is desync sensitive. And it actually did show up on the list. But the scenario file is not. It just says other. It's not desync sensitive. You can check, right, if things are desync sensitive. I think it's kind of ridiculous that models are desync sensitive, but the reason that basically any type of file will be desync sensitive is because you can use it to cheat. So for data files, obviously you can change the data on units, and so obviously people can't be running different data files while they're playing together. But for things like anim files, you can also shorten animation lengths. For models, BRGs, and GRN files, you can shorten the animation lengths inside those models in 3ds Max, and you can get animations to play faster so that your units do more damage. But that's still kind of a lazy fix that FE just said, well, all of them are banned. They should have put a check in place, I think, to make it so that models that don't have keyframes are still online compatible, but they did not do that. So basically you're left with the only types of mods that are going to be online compatible are going to be ones that don't have models, that are just textures, scenarios, user interface, or random map files. Those will all be online compatible. In fact, for scenarios and random map files, once you have them in your scenario folder, you can host them online and they will automatically transfer. Both scenarios and random maps should automatically transfer to the other players who join your game. Now, as a final note, now that we've covered everything about using mods and getting them to work and changing the priority and such of different mods to make it so that your setup is ideal, as you can see here, I have a whole bunch of mods so that my setup is exactly as I want it. Once you have enjoyed somebody's mod, it's important that you do give feedback. So what do I mean by this? And I'm just going to make a real quick note on this. But when you leave feedback in the comment section on somebody's mod, you want to be concise with your feedback. Be helpful, don't be, overly negative, and don't also be overly positive. Like comments that just say the word good, that's totally useless. Comments that just say the word like bad or this is terrible, that's totally useless. That's not what anybody wants to see. Also, and this is important, if you are having problems running somebody's mod, do not go and leave a comment that says this mod is broken, because 99% of the time it's something that you're doing wrong. You didn't follow some step that I showed in this video for getting the mod to work, or there's something unusual, like there's a compatibility issue or something. But 99% of the time the mod is not actually broken. It's because you did something. For this mod, you will have to manually move the scenario into another file. So what I'm actually going to tell him when I end this video is just that, hey, this is a fantastic scenario. I featured it in this video, and you should also think about moving your scenario, the SCX file, into a scenario folder so that people will automatically get the scenario and they don't have to manually move it over like I did. So feedback is important. Always be constructive with your feedback. So now for this part of the video, I'm just going to make a few more notes for scenario designers. So if you have no interest in scenario design or in doing any modding for yourself, then you can stop watching. The video is over. For scenario designers, like I said before, it's very, very important that you do reach out to the person who made the mods that you're using in your scenario, because if they update their mod while you're using the mod, it can cause problems on your end and not on anybody else's end, just for you. It's a very strange bug. You can talk to PhD Rogers about that. Another reason you want to contact the modder is because very often it's the case that they will be excited, they will be happy to know that you're using their mod. It's a great honor to have somebody use your mod in their scenario. And very often they'll be eager to help you. And what that means is not only will they not be updating their mod, so if their mod has new units, so it's like a proto mod and it adds new units to the game, like the UMC collection, then very often if they update, it can break your scenario. So this is not a good example. This is also not a good example. This one. Yes, so if you're using something like a UMC pack or something, if you're a scenario designer, you're using one of these mods in this collection, contact me, definitely reach out to me. I will be happy to help you so that I'm not updating my mod to break your scenario. And if anything, I would be willing to take requests to change my mod to make your scenario better, to whatever new units you need for your scenario, new terrains or whatever. That's definitely a possibility. It's one of the most fun things you can do, is collaborating with other modders and scenario designers to work on a project. It's important that you give credit when you use somebody else's content. Obviously, if you're a scenario designer and you use a mod in your scenario, you do need to make required content. If we look at any of the UMC mods, all of these have this thing that says required items. And you just do that by clicking here, add, remove, required items here. And then you select from mods that are either, these don't have to be, if I go back here, These can be mods that you are subscribed to, mods that are in your favorites list, or mods that you've published. So you will need to make those mods required. Then contact the modder again and ask them to promote, politely ask them to promote your scenario for their mod, and they will be happy to do that in most cases. So what you end up with is a situation where you're mutually promoting one another's products. So you're promoting their mod because it's a required item for people to play your scenario, and the modder is also saying, hey, everybody should check out this cool scenario that uses my mod. So win-win for everybody. So with that, we are done here. I've pretty much run out of things to talk about, and my air conditioning is coming on. So that's it. If you have any other questions about what files, what mods are going to be compatible with one another, if they're going to be online compatible or DLC compatible, I forgot to talk about DLC compatible because it's pretty much meaningless. People who don't have the DLC can still use mods that were made with DLC content. So if you have any other questions like that, I imagine I probably forgot to mention other things like that. Just leave a comment either on YouTube or on Steam and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.